So I'm on with another part of the tutorial. I'm going to pick up the stitches around the neck. This is the right front and I'm going to hopefully pick up about 25 stitches. So I've got 1, 2, 'They're very tight to get through these. 3, 4, 5, 'I'll do that one. 6. Now this next part here, there's a hole there, so I'm not going to pick up that stitch. I'm going to go through the next one. And that closes up that hole that you had, that would have appeared there. That's 7 stitches now. 8, 17. We're coming to a straight bit here, so it's easier to pick these up. 18, 19, 20, the last one is 25. So that I've managed to pick up 25 stitches on that front, and I'm going to pick up the 33 across the back. I have to turn that stitch shoulder around. And then there'll be another 25 to get down the left front. So these ones are a bit easier. And I will meet you when I get to the end of there. And I have 3 more stitches to pick up off the back. And now I'm going to go down the left front and pick up 25 stitches down there. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and now I'll meet you when I get them all picked up. So that is all 81 stitches picked up, and now I'm going to knit the first row. It's just all knit. And that is also, you have like a garter edge at the edge of the neck. So I'm going to knit that row and then I will be doing knit one, purl one. I'll come back after I've knit this row. So that is the first row knitted, and now I'm going to knit one, purl one, twisted rib. This is the same as what I've done in the bottom bands and the cuffs on the sleeves. So that's till it measures about an inch, maybe it's around about 10 rows. But I will come back when I get that far to let you know how many rows to do. So I've knit 8 rows and it now measures an inch, so that's as many rows as I need to do. And now we're going to cast off in knit one, purl one, rib, the same as I've been knitting. So and we're just going to cast off loosely. We're not going to pull the stitch tight after we've passed it over. And that is how you cast off the stitches. You just take the stitch over and leave it like that, so gives you a little bit of give when you finished it. Now I'll be back when I finish casting off the stitches to let you see how it looks. So that is how the neck is looking, and I haven't cut off that wool because I'm going to start using it to pick up the stitches down the front. But I will show that later when I get round to that. This is the last part of the video, and I'm going to show you how to put the band. This is a button band I've already done, and I'm going to show you how to put the buttonhole band on, which is exactly the same as what I've done for this one, except you're going to be putting buttonholes in. So I didn't need to show this one because the like I'm saying, the buttonhole band is exactly the same number of stitches, and I will show you how I do that now. And some of you may remember these were the very long metal circular needles that I bought, and I cut in half. These are 3mm one. I put a couple of little beads on the end, and this is what they're very handy for. It's very awkward because I would have had to have used a circular needle for doing this for the band, but these come in very handy because they're practically the full length of the band. So if anyone has any, bought any of these, this is what they're ideal for. So I'm going to start with getting some wool out, and I'm going to show you how to pick up the stitches, how I pick up the stitches. I'll blow this up a bit so you can see better. Now first of all, I count how many stitches I had actually picked up in the other band to make sure I get exactly the same number from there to there. And this one here is counting in there is 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, exactly 19 stitches I picked up. So that's what I'm going to pick up in the band to make sure it matches exactly the other side. need to start off with. Pick up one, find out which is the end I'm using. 2, 3, 4. I'm going into each space where there's a stitch, so that's 4, 5, 6, and you can see the little spaces, the whole loop, the whole V I'm going through. That's 7, 8, 9, and I'm going to miss one here because there are 20 rows. So I'm going to miss the next one and go into the one after that. Because each stitch you're picking up is one row. And I will meet you when I get to the end of that part. So that is the first 19 stitches. There's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 19. And that is the number of stitches I picked up for the rib. And as you can see, the last stitch ends at the end of the rib. And I'm going to show you how to pick up the stitches for the rest. This is how I pick them up. You will need, including those 19 stitches, you will need 127 stitches, depending on how many rows you actually knit. It depends whether you've made the cardigan longer or shorter. You could either need a few more stitches or a few less stitches than 127. But that is how many I've had to pick up on this cardigan. I'm going to show you how to pick up the rest of the stitches now. So we go into the next stitch. And as you can see, my needle goes through the whole V part of the stitch. So I pick up one stitch, 2, 3, and then I'm going to miss the next stitch and go into the next one. So I'm missing the 4th stitch and then counting 1, 2, 3. You can always tell it, you always have to have those 2 little V's when you pick them up. And that gives you a straight line. I'll show you a bit more as I get further on where you're missing the 4th stitch. It's 1, 2, 3. Miss the next stitch, the 4th stitch again, so it's groups of 3 you're picking up. 1, 2, 3. And if you look at the stitches on the needle to tell whether you've picked up the right amount of stitches, as you can see, my stitches are in groups of 3 with a space. Groups of 3, another space, a group of 3 and another space. So if you see like 2 in a space, you know you've missed a 1. Or you see 4 and a space, you've added a 1. That's the way it looks. And as you can see, there's a nice straight line because you've picked up the full V stitch. And that's how the rest will look. So carry on up to the neckband, and then I will show you how to count how many stitches you need for that. But I will come back when I've picked up those stitches and show you then. Now I'm up to the neckband and I have counted 120 stitches. That's how many. So there are 7 more stitches to pick up on this part of the neckband. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, miss 1, 4, 5, 'I'm going to miss one because I have too many. 5, that's 6, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm going to have to pick up an extra 1 to get to the top of the band. So I now have 128 stitches instead of 127. But what I do to get rid of that extra stitch, the next row, I'm going to show you. Get my other needle. The first row is a knit row. It's all the way down is knit. So I'm going to knit and that gives you like a raglan edge that separates the band from the rest of the cardigan. I'm going to knit 1 or 2 stitches down to the and as I want an odd number of stitches so that I start with knit and end with knit on the actual rib, I have to get rid of that 1 extra stitch, so I'm going to knit 2 stitches together here. It won't be noticed because it'll be just like the garter edge. I'll show you in a minute when I get a few more stitches done. You can't really see where I've knitted 2 stitches together there, and that gets rid of that extra stitch and gives you the 100, gives me the 127. And that's all you have to do. If you pick up the stitches and you have 2 or even 2 or 3 more than what you need as you knit across that row, just knit 2 together in different places down there. Or if you don't have enough, or if you have more than enough, you knit 2 stitches together. But if you haven't got enough, you make a stitch was knit in the front and back of the stitch and you can't tell. So just knit across that whole row and then I'll come back and show you how to do the rib. So that is how it's looking now. I've knit the whole row and I came across one little snag when I was knitting. There was a knot in the wool and I was not going to pull it back down and start it from the end, because that meant you would have to work those bits of wool in down there on the neckline. So what I've done, I cut the knot off. That was the only knot I found in all of that wool that I've used for this cardigan, which it had to be when I was doing the band. So I cut it off there and left it on the right side, and I will use a needle to slot it through to the other side. Each piece of yarn I will like cross them over like that, and on the other side, that side, I will weave down the seam there where we've picked the stitches up, and that one I will do the same on the other side and weave down that way. That'll get rid of those ends, keep them together. That was so annoying, but I was not going to pull it out. So anyway, Now you've done that, picked up all the stitches, knit that first row. You need to do 7 rows. This one here, this is the other side. There's 7 rows of rib, and then you cast the cast off row. But you want buttonholes in here, so you're going to knit 3 rows and put the buttonholes on the 4th row. So I will come back at the start of the 4th row and show you how to do the buttonholes and how to work out where to put them. So I have done 3 rows and I'm ready to do the 4th row with the buttonholes, and that's how I do the buttonholes, how I work out. I put stitch markers, I work out exactly where, how evenly as I can, I put the stitch markers in. And I've started off down here with the couple, you know, left down the bottom. So I've had put the stitch marker in. I would 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and on the 8th one I've put a stitch marker, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and I've done that all the way up until I come near the top where it isn't working out quite that way. So I think it was here, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That right? I'm at that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 there, and then I've done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 on that one, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So the last 3 are spaced slightly different to the rest because I couldn't work it out any other way to get 9, because I have 9 buttonholes. That's how many buttonholes I put in these size cardigans. So I'm going to show you how I do the buttonholes now. And I am knitting in twisted ribs, so I'll blow that up a little bit so you can see better. Oh, I've lost my needle. Yeah, that happens sometimes. I put those stitches back on the needle. And when I come to the stitch that has a stitch marker on, I knit that stitch, and then it's bring your wool forward, and you're going to knit the next 2 stitches together. So that is the mark up to where you knit, where the stitch marker is. Then I knit the next 2 stitches together, brought my wool forward. Now keep my finger to keep the buttonhole as large as possible, so it doesn't come out too small and too tight. If I can get my finger on it, I keep my finger on the wool there and knit the, so you have a bit loop there, and that keeps that where you had the wool over slack. I pull it up a little bit if it tightens up. That gives you a decent sized buttonhole. I'll go on to the next one and show that again. It's rather awkward for me for this, the weight of this, and I'm standing up under my phone. I'm usually sitting with the whole thing on my knee, take some of the weight off. It's the weight of the carding is actually pulling my knitting down. I can only show you one more because it's a little bit too awkward. I'm coming up to the next one. So I'm going to knit that stitch that the holder is on, the stitch marker is on, and bring the wool forward I need to move this wool. It's pulling tight because the stitches, because I'm not having it on my knee. That's it. I'm going to knit this next 2 stitches together and keep my finger on the wool there like that so it doesn't go tight. Then you have quite a loose. You pull it up a little bit to slacken it off a little bit, and then carry on to the next buttonhole. And now I'll be back after that row. That is your 4th row. You'll have another 3 rows to knit after that, and then the last row will be casting off, and I'll come back and show you that. Another little tip, when you're knitting the next row after you've made the buttonholes, that stitch that you made the buttonhole with will be a knit stitch. Do not knit into the back of it like you would if you're doing twisted rib. Just knit into the front of it, just for that 1 row. If you knit into the back of it, you'll tighten up the buttonhole, and the buttonhole will be very small. So you want a good size buttonhole to get a good size button through. So make sure you do that you only knit through front ways, not through the back of the knit stitch like you do with the other stitches for twisted rib. So I am now casting off the stitches, and I'm just using a small needle because you don't need the big large one because I'm not knitting with it. And I'm using the rib was knitted on a 3mm, but I'm using a 325. I don't know if you can see the size on this one. It's upside down, but 325mm because I want just a slightly larger stitch to cast off with. And when you cast off the stitch, it's a bit awkward because the weight of this thing is pulling me down here. I'm not knitting it in the twisted stitch style, I'm just knitting straight here. And when you take the stitch over to cast off, do not pull it tight, just leave it the way it falls. You don't want to pull the stitch because you'll tighten up the edge of the button band too much, the buttonhole band. Just leave it. On to the next one. So that is how you cast the stitches off. Just carry on across until you have them all cast off, and then all will be left will be the buttons, and I'll show you how to place the buttons. I've sorted out 9 buttons for the cardigan, and I'm going to show you how I work out where to put the buttons. I don't pin anything, I just count the stitches between buttonholes, and that I'll show you when I start it. So I'll start with the buttonhole down here. And I'm using the long end that I started the knitting, part of the knitting with. That's why I leave these long ends. I have to thread a needle first. Now this buttonhole here, there are 1, 2 knit stitches, and the buttonhole is done between the 3rd knit stitch and that space. So I'm counting one. It's in the same place, exactly the same stitch, starting with there and there. So I'm going to do it in the space down here. So I have to bring the thread or the wool down to that third space. So I go across the seam on the back. Till I get to the place where the buttonhole is going to be, where the button is going to be, not the buttonhole. And this is just what I start off with, that I do this with, and I go across until I get to about the center of the space. And bring the needle in on the other side. And I'm going to put my first button in there. And place it as near to the center as you can. I've knotted that. I don't know where it's knotted in from, but I'm going to have to take it away from the camera to see what I'm doing. That's it. I can get the needle in the next. I can't find the hole. Again, it's knotted through the it's a bit awkward doing this. I usually do it when it's on my knee and I can see better. So that's 3 times. Went through the buttonhole. Now I'm going to fasten it off from behind. Just a couple of times and wrap the wool around the needle. And then just cut it off. That's the first button on, and I'll show you fasten it. So that's the first button in the right place. I'll loosen that. And now for the next buttonhole, you count up the number of stitches from where that one was. You go 1, 2. No, you count from here, so I'm counting from there. You count these stitches here, the knit stitches, go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It's done on the next buttonhole is between the 8th stitch, the knit stitch, and the purl stitch. So you count 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So it's done on this one here. I need to put a a knot in my wool, and I'll have to count those up again. I should have had the knot in first to put it in there. So it's going to go in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 into the space after the 8th one. Get the next button on. That's 2. And you go 3 times through the buttonhole. And then just stitch it down twice. Get the wool, the needle through the wool. Wrap the wool around the needle. Once. Twice. And then cut it off. And that's 2 buttons. Fasten that one. And the next one. So that's 2 buttonholes, and when you do the next one, do exactly the same as what I showed you in that one. You count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and on the gap there is between the 8th and the knit row and the purl row. So you count from that buttonhole there, that button there, from that one, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You put the next one in that space, and that's how you work out where to put the buttons. Very easy, but you must have exactly the same number of stitches for the band, for both the button band and the buttonhole band. And I will show you that when I get that far. So that is the finished cardigan. All the buttons on, neckband, bands, the buttons. And I will blow it up so you can see a little better. The buttonhole bands. And that is the end of that tutorial. So if anyone wants to see any more anytime, give a thumbs up and subscribe. And I will show you what I do next time. So bye for now. Well, that is the finished cardigan tutorial finished. I'm going to message the lady who has to buy it and make sure that she still wants it. The tutorial's finished, so as soon as I work out all the edits and things on the rest of this part of the tutorial, I will have it up on my Sheila's Just Knitting